Section 1 of Dear Mable. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Rob Kunkel. Dear Mable, Love Letters of a Rookie by Edward Streeter. Dear Mable, I guess you thought I was dead. You'll never know how near you was to write. We got the tents up at last though, so I got a minute to write. I guess they chose these camps by mail order. The only place they're flat is on the map. Where our tents is would make a good place for a Rocky Mountain goat if he didn't break his neck. The first day the captain came out and says, "Pitch your tents here." Then he went to look for someone else quick before anybody could ask him how. I wish I was a captain. I guess he thought we were Alpine chasers, Mable? But you probably don't know what those are. Honest, Mable, if I'd put in the work I done last week on the Panama Canal, it would have been workin long before it was. Of course there was a lot of fellos there with me, but it seemed like all they did was stand around and hand me shovels when I wore em out. The captain appreciates me though. The other day he watched me work a while and then he says, "Smith." He calls me Smith now. We've got very friendly since I've been nice to him. I noticed none of the other fellos had much to say to him. I kind of felt sorry for him. He's a human bein even if he is a captain, Mable. So every time I saw him I used to stop him and talk to him. Democratic. Thats me all over, Mable. "Smith," he says, "if they was all like you round here war would be hell, no joke." By which he meant that we would make it hot for the Boshes. I've been feelin awful sorry for you, Mable. What with missin me and your fathers liver gone back on him again, things must have been awful lonesome for you. It isn't as if you was a girl what had a lot of fellos hangin around all the time. Not that you couldnt have em, Mable. But you don't and theres no use makin no bones about it. If it hadnt been for me I guess things would have been pretty stupid, though I don't begrudge you a cent. You know how I am with my money. I guess you ought to know anyway, Mable. Never talk of money matters in connection with a woman. Thats me all over. Now I got started and found a fountin pen at the YMCA givin away paper like it does I'm going to write you regular. They say they are going to charge 3 cents for a letter pretty soon. That aint going to stop me though, Mable. There aint no power in heaven or earth, as the poets say, as can come between you and me, Mable. You might send a few 3-cent stamps when you write. That is, if your fathers able to work yet. And willin, I should add. Of course it aint nothin to me but I'd keep these letters what you get from me as a record of the war. Some day you can read em to your grandchildren and say, "Your grandfather Bill did all these things." Aint I the worst, Mable? Serious though, I havent found none so far what has thought of doin this except the newspapers. I guess Ill get a lot of inside stuff that they'll never see. So this may be the only one of its kind, but it doesn't matter to me what you do with them, Mable. Later Ill tell you all about everything, but I guess you wont understand much cause its technical. Lots of fellos are gettin knitted things and candy and stuff right along. Don't pay no attention to that though, or take it for a hint, cause it aint. I just say it as a matter of record. Independent if nothin. Thats me all over. Yours till the war ends, Bill. Dear Mable, having nothin better to do I take up my pen to write. We have been here now 3 weeks. As far as I'm concerned I'm all ready to go. I told the captain that I was ready any time. He said yes but that we'd have to wait for the slow ones cause they was all goin together. I says was I to go out to drill with the rest. He says yes, more for the example than anything else. Its kind of maddening to be hangin around here when I might be over there helpin the Sammies put a stop to this thing. In the meantime I've been doin some guard duty. Seems like I been doin it every night but I know what there up against and I don't say nothin. Guard duty is something like extemporaneous speaking. You got to know everything you're goin to say before you start. Its very technical. For instance, you walk a post but there aint no post. And you mount guard but you don't really mount nothin. And you turn out the guard but you don't really turn em out. They come out themselves. Just the other night I was walkin along thinkin of you, Mable, and my feet which was hurtin. It made me awful lonesome. An officer come up and he says why don't you draw your pistol when you hear someone comin. And I says I don't wait till the sheep is stole. I drew it this afternoon from the supply sergeant. And I showed it to him tucked inside my shirt where none could get it away from me without some tussle. You bet, Mable. But it seems that you got to keep on drawin it all the time. Then later I hear footsteps. I was expectin the relief so I was right on the job. And a man come up and I poked my pistol right in his face and says halt. Who goes there? And he says officer of the day. And bein disappointed as who wouldnt be I says, oh hell I thought it was the relief, and he objected to that. The relief, Mable, but whats the use? You wouldnt understand it. Theres some mistake up north, Mable, about the way we're built, Mable. Its kind of depressin to think that you could forget about us so quick. Everyones getting sweaters without sleeves and gloves without fingers. We still got everything we started with, Mable. Why not socks without feet and pants without legs? If youre makin these things for after the war I think youre anticipatin a little. Besides its depressin for the fellos to be reminded all the time. Its like givin a fello a life membership to the old soldiers home to cheer him up when he sails. I was sayin the other day that if the fellos at Washington ever get on to this theyll be issuin soleless shoes and shirtless sleeves. Its gettin awful cold. No wonder this is a healthy place. All the germs is froze. I guess their idea of the hardening process is to freeze a fello stiff. Captin said the other day we were gettin intensive trainin. Thats all right but Id kind of like to see those steam heated barracks. Youve read about those fellos that go swimmin in the ice in winter. I guess thed like our shower baths. They say cleanliness is next to godliness, Mable. I say its next to impossible. I started this letter almost a week ago. I just found it in my bakin can. They call it a bakin can but its too small to bake nothin. I keep my soap in it. I got some news for you. The regiment is to be dismantled. The Captin called me over this morning and asked me where Id like to be transferred. I said home if it was the same to him. So theyre goin to send me to the artillery. This is very dangerous and useful limb of the service, Mable. I dont know my address. Just write me care of the General. I got the red muffler that your mother sent me. Give her my love just the same. Yours relentlessly, Bill. Dear Mable, I havnt wrote for some time I had such sore feet lately. When they broke up our regiment and sent me over to the artillery I thought I was goin to quit usin my feet. That was just another rumor. Thanks for the box of stuff you sent me. I guess the brakeman must have used it for a chair all the way. It was pretty well baled but that dont matter. And thanks for the fudge too. That was fudge, wasnt it, Mable? And the socks. They dont fit but I can use them for somethin. A good soldier never throws nothin away. And thank your mother for the half pair of gloves she sent me. I put them away. Maybe sometime shell get a chance to knit the other half. Or if I ever get all my fingers shot off theyll come in very handy. The artillery is a little different from the infantry. They make us work harder. At least theres more work on the schedule. I know now what they mean when they say the artillerys active on the Western front. They got a drill over here called the standing gun drill. The names misleading. I guess it was invented by a troupe of Jap acrobatics. They make you get up and sit on the gun. Before you can get settled comfortable they make you get down again. It looks like they didnt know just what they did want you to do. I dont like the sergeant. I dont like any sergeant but this one particular. The first day out be kept sayin prepare to mount and then mount. Finally I went to him and told him that as far as I was concerned he could cut that stuff for I was always prepared to do what I was told even though it was the middle of the night. He said fine. Then I was probably prepared to scrub pans all day Sunday. I dont care much for horses. I think they feels the same way about me. Most of them are so big that the only thing theyre good for is the view of the camp you get when you climb up. They are what they call hors de combat in French. My horse died the other day. I guess it wasnt much effort for him. If it had been he wouldnt have done it. They got a book they call Drill Regulations Field and Light. Thats about as sensible as it is all the way through. For instance they say that when the command for action is given one man jumps for the wheel and another springs for the trail and another leaps for the muzzle. I guess the fello that wrote the regulations thought we was a bunch of grasshoppers. Well Ive got to quit now and write a bunch of other girls. Thanks again for the box although it was busted that it wasnt much good but that dont matter. Yours till you hear otherwise, Bill. End of section 1.